here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this 10-day reading vlog. So, if you're wondering, 10 days in the middle of the month, Chris, that seems kind of odd. There is a reason for it, and that is because on the 18th, we have the next round of the Final Book Support Group. So I can either do a 7-day vlog, and then a 3-day vlog, and then the Final Book Support Group, or I could just do one vlog, and considering that I'm behind on editing, I thought it would just be easier to edit one vlog and upload one vlog than to film and edit and upload two. So 10 days, and we'll see what I can get up to between now and the Final Book Support Group. 2 books I'm in the midst of at the moment are The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. I'm like 174 pages in. I need to finish that this week. Well, not this week, in this vlog, because my audiobook will be going back. I need to finish Ghost in the Guacamole, because I've started that, and I have to read book 5.5 before I can read book 6, and I'm currently on book 5. That's book 5. So, like, book 6 is on my TBR. So, I need to get a move on that. What other audiobooks do I currently have out from the library that I'm going to want to get to in the next 10 days, because I'll go back? Let's see. The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James. All the Light We Cannot See, and Sharp Ends. So, I think these are definitely going to be priority reads this week, since I have the audiobooks out, and they also will need to go back to the library and get returned, and I don't want to have to retake them out or get in line. So those will probably be priority reads this week. And then I don't know. I have a lot of books that I would like to read. So yeah, that would leave me with, and I'm not going to count ebooks. I think I have 2 in addition to my physical books. And of course, here comes Cielo, because again, she can't just let me film without her being in the video. I'm waiting for her to wreck something. So that would leave me with physically 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 books if I get through the books I just mentioned, plus I think 2 ebooks. Because I believe, like I said, I have the Granny Apples one on my TBR, maybe. It is on a TBR. Whether it is on my Phase 10 TBR, I'm not sure. But I'm almost positive I got highest rated, and highest rated is The Death of the Party, or The Death at the Party, or something like that. And that is 100% an ebook. So, I really need to get a move on, because I would like to, you know, actually finish my TBR, because if it's going to keep throwing wilds at me, the more rewards I have on that board, the better off I'm going to be. I'm also dealing with a dying computer, so that'll be fun. My computer at the moment is supposed to be here Monday, so fingers crossed it actually gets here, because I don't know how much more I can handle a computer that runs so slow it might as well be running backwards, and a computer that cannot stay on for longer than 5 minutes. Unless it is propped up on its end and faced towards a fan, which makes it very, very hard to do anything on, because I can't see the screen and I can't really get at the keyboard. So, we're going to see how this week goes. I should have more time for reading, because I'm not on the computer and farting around on there for really much of anything, because, like I said, one computer does not want to do much and runs almost backwards, and the other one won't stay on. So, we'll see how this week goes. Wish me luck, y'all. Hopefully I can get some videos edited and uploaded as well. Whether I can actually get them out to you might depend on when my new computer comes, because it has been a trip trying to do the few I have done the last few days. Because it literally takes 5 minutes to save a photo to the computer that runs slower than molasses. Which, you can imagine my frustration when I'm just sitting here waiting for the photo to save so that I can then make my thumbnail. And that doesn't include doing things like then uploading said thumbnail to the video, or saving the thumbnail to my computer, or, you know, adding music in for my B-roll. So, yeah, it's been a rough few days, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I will get a lot of reading done, and I get to kind of start fresh, other than Path of Daggers and Ghost of the Guacamole, because I finished the 2 books I needed to finish last week. So fresh start this week, a lot of reads that I'm very excited about, and I will hopefully check in a few days and give you an update and have some books to talk to you about. So it is the 15th, and in a normal week, I would be wrapping this up without having checked in, but it is not a normal week because this is a 10-day vlog. I haven't wanted to be on camera. On Monday, I had an appointment inside of a building that I had to go to, so I was dreading it all weekend, and then, of course, Monday, I had to go actually do it, and it was something I didn't want to do, but I had to do. Luckily, the person I was in the room with snuck me in the back door and was masked the whole time, but it still was something I was very not into doing. And then Monday evening, I, kind of added some pink to my hair. So that was just a really, really long day of going into buildings. Again, my stylist waits till, or hairstylist, whatever you want to call her, the person that does my hair. She schedules me for the end of the day after all the other employees have gone home, and it's just me and her, and she wears a mask. So I'm very lucky in that sense that I have somebody who's willing to work with me and my anxiety. And I think it came out pretty awesome. I'm very happy with how bright and pink and vibrant it is. So that was nice, but it took me several days to kind of recharge my spoons. In the midst of that, I also have been crying over the new NSYNC song. Because I don't know if you know this, but I'm a humongous NSYNC fan. Have been since I was 11 years old, and we got a new NSYNC song this week, and they performed together for the first time in like a decade. So I've had a lot of things on my mind that was not filming or editing or whatever. I literally am in the process of uploading my Polarathon vlog, so I'm trying to get back on track. I have done a lot of reading though, so I want to run you through that. So first up, I finished Ghost in the Guacamole, which I gave 3.5 stars, and The Ghost of Mistletoe Mary, which I gave 4 stars. These are books, I believe 5 and 5.5 in the Granny Apples series, and they're ebooks, and I actually managed to read some ebooks. And I obviously enjoyed book 5.5 better, which was the novella. In Ghost in the Guacamole, Emma, who has the ability to see and hear ghosts, gets contacted by this woman who owns a restaurant with her sister and her mom. And it was their dad's restaurant, and when he died, I think a little over a year ago, it passed on to them, and all decisions have to come from the three of them. And her sister wants to sell. Her mom doesn't seem to have strong feelings either way, and she would like to keep the place. So she wants Emma to contact the ghosts of her father and grandfather to find out what they want to do. And so that is the premise of it. Is focused around these sisters and their restaurant and their dad's ghost. And I just struggled to get into this one. There was just something about it that didn't click with me. I enjoyed it fine, but it definitely wasn't my favorite in the series. I think I didn't care as much about the mystery as I probably should have. And I think that definitely affected my enjoyment of the story. Although there are always aspects to like in this, because we get introduced to a new character, and that character is quite intriguing. And funnily enough, that character is the main character for the next book. And in that one, that character is looking into a possible disappearance or death of a woman known as Mistletoe Mary. And I believe she's like a prostitute or a sex worker of some sort. And our main character also works with a local outreach program who helps homeless vets. And one of the homeless vets that they work with is saying that this woman has died and is acting like he can see her ghost. So we're kind of wondering whether this woman is dead, is missing, is maybe have gotten out of the game and is perfectly fine somewhere. So we're kind of investigating that. And I enjoyed this one more than The Ghost in the Guacamole. I find our new character quite intriguing. I thought it was interesting to be in a different character's head, because so far, I believe we've been in either Emma's head or Emma's daughter's head. And this was a just completely different point of view. And it was intriguing to see things from a different character's perspective that doesn't necessarily have the ties to Emma that like Kelly, her daughter, does. So I enjoyed the mystery in this and wondering what happened to Mary and how this was all going to kind of turn out in the end. So I enjoyed that one. And then I wanted to mention that I have started The Ghost of Misty Hollow, I think it's called, which is book 6, which is good because that's the one that's on all of my TBRs. So I have started that one. I don't know how far into it I am because it's an ebook and I didn't look, but I think I've made a pretty decent dent in that one, and I'm enjoying that one as well. Emma is invited to help an author who wants to write a book that involves a red herring being that the killer is a ghost. So he's writing a thriller and he wants a ghostly tie-in to be a red herring. And while he doesn't personally believe in ghosts, he wants to make sure that the experience is authentic for the reader so that the reader will be duped. So he's invited Emma to this like bed and breakfast, or this inn that is supposedly haunted. I mean, it's definitely haunted, but I think he has heard rumors that it's haunted. And they're there, and she's definitely made contact with the ghosts, and the ghost wants her to look into the disappearance of 2 young relatives of his that happened a while ago. I mean, like 1800s a while ago, or like early 1900s. So that is what she's up to, and I'm enjoying this one a lot more than the last 2. So we'll see how that one goes. Then I finished The Path of Daggers, so I have made more progress in my Robert Jordan Wheel of Time Along series. I gave this one 3.75. I enjoy these books, but I can say I'm very, very excited about the fact that the audiobook for the next book in the series is an 11-week wait. I will not be reading these without the audiobook, so I'm kind of enjoying the fact that in April there is very little chance that I will be reading a Robert Jordan book, because they're long, and they're, like I said, there are things I really enjoy about the series, and then there are things I don't. This is an epic fantasy series that kind of has like a chosen one, and there's some magic in the world, and it's all about like the wheel of time and how it moves, and this dragon that's been reborn, and the main character that we're following, well, one of the main characters that we're following is supposedly the dragon reborn, and we're following a lot of people connected to him. So we get so many points of view, and there's characters I really like following, and I like seeing what is going on with them, and then there's others that I enjoy less. So I don't think this series is ever going to get a book that's like 5 stars, because there's always going to be aspects of it that I don't like, but I'm still intrigued and wondering how this is all going to wrap up. And obviously I still have a ways to go, but I'm still invested enough in the series to stick it out and see where things go. And I'm very curious to see, because we're getting close to the point where Robert Jordan dies, and Brandon Sanderson takes over and I believe uses Robert Jordan's notes and outlines and stuff to kind of finish the series for him. So I'm very curious to see how, if in any way at all, the tone changes when we get to the Brandon Sanderson books, because I liked so I like Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and there's another series of his I believe I've read. If there is, I'll pop the name up here, because I'm drawing a blank. But I know that I don't like Mistborn. I read the first book in the Mistborn series and absolutely hated it. It put me into a giant slump and made me steer away from adult fantasy for a long time. So I'm very curious to see how I feel about him joining this and writing adult fantasy, since I don't think I've really connected with his adult fantasy, because I don't think the other series is adult. So we'll see how that goes. But this was a fine addition to the series, and I'm still invested. Then I read All the Light We Cannot See, and I gave this 4.25 stars. This is set during World War II, and we follow Marie Lore, and she's blind, and her and her father flee and end up at her great uncle's house during World War II. And we kind of see her journey of what it's like to be blind with this relative she doesn't really know in a completely different location than the one she was comfortable in. What adds a wrinkle to this is, unbeknownst to her, her father is potentially carrying a very expensive jewel with him that his museum that he worked at sent along with him. There are fakes, and he doesn't know whether he has the real one or the fake one. So that is also part of the story with her and her father. And then we have the other POV, which is Werner, who is really, really good with like electronics and like fixing radios and things like that. And he ends up going to this school and ends up working on like transmissions and tracking radio transmissions and radio waves, and is working not necessarily because he wants to, but because it's kind of, he's got no choice, to track down like the resistance radio waves and find the traitors to the Germans during World War II. And eventually their paths are going to cross. And I really enjoyed this. I thought it was such an interesting look at different aspects of the war that I hadn't looked at before. Because you have Marie, who is blind, and just the different way that is going to affect how the war plays out for her, and the way she kind of views things, and the things that happen to her and her family during the war. And they live in France, I believe, yeah, because they fled Paris. And end up living in a house by the sea somewhere. I quite enjoyed, just like I said, some of the different aspects, because when Marie is talking about things, she's not using her, obviously, sense of sight, because she doesn't have anything. So when you hear about some of the things that are going on, you're hearing what she can hear, what she can smell, that kind of thing. And I thought that was such an interesting way to go about describing some of the destruction and how she can't see people. So it is interesting to see her perceive her surroundings while not being able to see. And then Werner is somebody who really, really loves electronics and like working on these radios and tinkering. And he is not into all of the Nazi rhetoric. He doesn't really want to hurt other people. He doesn't really care about any of that. And it is interesting to see him trying to find a way to navigate the situation he's found himself in, despite the fact that he really just wants to be left alone to work on like radios and stuff, and how he's got to balance what he is capable of doing with what they want him to do with those capabilities. And it was a very, very fascinating story. And I think at some point when I'm in the mood for a movie, maybe I will check out the movie, because this has been adapted. But very happy I have gotten to this one. Then I read The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James, and I gave this 4.5 stars. This follows a young girl named Sunny, who is the recent recipient of a heart transplant. She has obviously been going through a lot of things, given that, she had a bad ticker. One of those things is that her best friend and her have had a massive falling out, and she is on the lookout for a new best friend, because she's got this idea that she's going to have a new outlook on life, and she's going to be a completely different Sunny St. James. So she wants to find a new best friend. She wants to be able to kiss a boy because she's never kissed anybody before. While all of this is going on, her mother, who hasn't been in her life, shows back up, and she's dealing with how she feels about her mother's sudden reappearance in her life. And at the same time, she starts to realize that maybe, just maybe, it's not a boy she wants to kiss, but a girl. So Sunny is dealing with a lot in this book, and I thought it was incredibly interesting to see how Ashley Herring Blake kind of handled balancing all of that, because I can't imagine getting a new heart, realizing you like girls, and having your estranged mom show back up in your life and having to try to figure out how to deal with all of these massive changes that are happening all kind of at the same time. Now, in the case of the heart, there's a lot of good with that, because it means she is healthier and she can do things that she wasn't able to do before, hasn't been able to do in a long time. And it is interesting seeing her find her boundaries, realize what she is capable of, and the emotional toil that takes on Kate, who has been her guardian. And Kate is her mom's best friend, or was her mom's best friend when Sunny was little and her mom kind of gave her up. And it is really, really interesting to see the dynamic between the two of them versus the dynamic between Sunny and Lena, her mom, as that relationship develops, and the way you see the differences between Kate and Lena and how they treat Sunny. And then, of course, seeing a girl she meets who she's hoping will become her new best friend, and then seeing her interact with her old best friend and kind of discovering the story around that. So there was a lot going on in this book, and I really, really enjoyed getting to see all of the complications that were thrown at Sunny at the same time. And I thought that was also really interesting because just because she had this heart transplant doesn't mean that was the only thing going on in her life. And I kind of like that you had the heart transplant and the fallout from that, this crazy thing with her mom coming back in, and then something as simple and normal as, I want to have my first kiss, and maybe that first kiss isn't going to be with the kind of person I thought it was going to be because, oh wait, maybe I like the same sex as me. So I just thought that was so interesting to kind of transpose this normal thing that most teenagers go through with wanting to kiss somebody with a thing a lot of teenagers don't go through, and that's an estranged mom showing up, with a thing that I would hope is a rare thing teenagers go through with having a heart transplant. So it was just a really interesting read, and Ashley Herring Blake is definitely a new favorite author. Between that and the Delilah Green Doesn't Care series. Then I read the Vanna Beekers Make-A-Wish, and I gave this 4.5 stars. In this one, the Vanna Beeker kids are getting ready to set up a birthday party for their dad. Unfortunately, their dad's best friend needs him. I believe, I don't remember why, and it doesn't say. I think maybe somebody close to his best friend died, and he had to go help his best friend because his best friend needed him, and his best friend lives in a different state. So he flies out to visit his best friend. At the same time, their mom's parents show up, and their mom's parents aren't really close to them. And they have an interesting dynamic, and they're trying to figure out how to deal with their grandparents, who they don't see very often, and plan a party for their dad, which may or may not be able to go off because they don't know when exactly their dad's coming home. So the reason this gets 4.5 stars is a me thing. The grandmother in this book, in a lot of ways, reminded me of my grandmother. And I don't know that I was ready to read a book about grandparents, especially with a book that has a grandmother that reminds me of mine. So there was a lot of times in this book that I could feel some of the frustration the kids were feeling, but being an adult and understanding why my grandma acted like that, I also felt for the grandmother because I felt like I kind of understood where she was coming from, but it was hard because it made me miss my grandmother. And if you didn't know, I lost my grandmother in January, so this was probably not the best book to be reading right now, but I had no idea that the grandmother in this book was going to remind me so much of mine. So that is why it gets a slightly lower rating, because there was no way I was going to be able to give this 5 stars when it just kind of made me want to, at times, curl up in a ball and cry because of how much I miss my gram. So this is still a really, really good book in the series. I really enjoy some of the antics. I feel like there's threads because this book ties directly into the next book based on what I believe the next book is about and where this book ended. So I very much want to read that one, and I'm looking forward to doing it in April, but I'm going to set this down now because I'm getting very, very emotional just thinking about it. Just know that it was a me thing that this got 4.5, not a book thing, and I still love this series and can't wait to continue with it next month. And then the last book I finished is The Elders, which is the second book in the Foxcraft series. And in this, we're following Isla, who in the first book sees, I'm trying to remember, I think it's another band of foxes go after her family, but something goes after her family, and she gets separated from her parents, her brother, and her grandmother. And we see her go through the first book where she's trying to find her family, and this is a continuation of that journey with more information than we had in the first book, obviously, because she learned a lot of stuff in the first book, but I can't tell you any of that because it would be spoilers. I gave this book 4 stars. I don't remember if I said that. I'm a little all over the place today. So in this one, we see Isla's continuing journey. We see her meet some new characters, and obviously trying to figure out whether she can trust them and whether they are people she wants to, foxes she wants, I think they're all foxes she wants to invest time in. So it is just interesting seeing the continuation of her journey and her getting closer to understanding everything that happened to her family and the reasons why. So I'm definitely enjoying this series, and hopefully I'll be able to finish it in the next few months, because I'd like to do it while the details are still relatively fresh in my head. That is not all I've read, though. So in addition to having started The Ghost of Misty Hollow, I have started The Nowhere Boy, which is about Ahmed, who is fleeing Syria and has recently arrived in Brussels, and then Max, who's an American boy whose father took a job that put him in Brussels and has to kind of survive there. I don't know exactly where I'm into how far into this I am, because I'm listening to the audiobook, but I'm enjoying what I've listened to so far, and I don't think I'm that far into it. So far, so good on this one. I'm most of the way through Don't Disturb, which is the next book in the Bake Shop mystery series, which follows Jules, who was working on a ship with her husband, but something happens that causes her to be estranged from him, and she ends up going back to her hometown to help her mom with her parents' bakery. Her dad died years ago, but her mom is still running their bakery, and she starts working there because she's gone to culinary school. She's very, very good at what she does and is kind of trying to figure things out. And in this one, a friend is getting married, and the friend's dad shows up, and there ends up being a murder, and it looks like the dad may have committed the murder, and so she is looking into things on behalf of her friend to try to prove that her dad didn't do it. And I'm quite enjoying this one. I'm very, very invested in figuring out what happened, and I'm assuming clearing the dad's name, because I'm assuming the dad didn't do it. I have no reason to believe that the dad did it. So I'm quite enjoying this one. I think I have an hour and a half left in the audiobook, so I should be able to finish that relatively soon. I'm reading Grave Sister, which is the second book in the Book of the Ancestor series, which is about assassin nuns. And our main character is Nona, who, let me see, in the first book ends up going to this nunnery or school or whatever, and ends up getting trained to be an assassin. I believe that's this series. Yeah, the Convent of Sweet Mercy. So we're following Nona's journey in the second book. I'm on, I think I read chapter 13 last night, so we're going to move forward and say that I'm on chapter 14, which puts me on page 132. So I'm enjoying this one. I want to read book 3 next month because I was struggling to remember everything. Luckily, Mark Lawrence is amazing. And the start of this says, the story so far. For those of you who have had to wait a while for this book, I provide brief catch-up notes to book 1 so that your memories may be refreshed and I can avoid the awkwardness of having to have characters tell each other things they already know for your benefit. Here, I carry forward only what is of importance to the tale that follows. And I love that because it's been a bit since I've read book 1. So it was like this quick refresher on what we learned in book 1 and the major kind of plot points that were going to be important moving forward. So thank you, Mark Lawrence, for that. I really, really needed that. But I would like to read book 3 while the book details from 2 are still in my head. So that is the plan, is to finish this and then in April read book 3. So far I'm enjoying this. I have the major plot points, but I think I would be enjoying this more if I actually remembered more of book 1. I'm still feeling stuff come back as I read this, so we'll see where I get by the end. And then I believe the last update I have is that I started What the River Knows. I'm on page 38, and I'm definitely invested in this. I read all 38 pages on a night where I said I was only going to read a chapter, and well, I can tell you the first chapter was not 38 pages. This follows Inez, whose parents are, I believe, archaeologists. Yes, I believe. Well, it says her globe-trotting parents, but I believe they're archaeologists because they're constantly unearthing items. And they spend a lot of their time in Egypt, and they end up dying. And now she's gone to Egypt to find out what happened to them, because she's not sure that they're actually dead because there's no bodies. They just kind of disappeared. So she is now in Cairo and is trying to get some answers. And there is some magic in this world that I'm still learning about. But so far I'm intrigued by this. I just haven't gotten back to it. And that is my update. The reason I have multiple books on the go is because my brain is all over the place. So I'm doing that thing where like I'll start a book and then get distracted by the other shiny book over here. So we'll see how this goes and how much of this I can finish in, where are we? I have 3 days? 3 days before I have to dive into my final book support group TBR. So I would really like to finish the books I'm in the middle of, which are What the River Knows, Grey Sister, Don't Disturb, Nowhere Boy, and The Ghost of Misty Hollow. So that is going to be my goal for the next 3 days. We'll see how it goes. But that is my update. I am sorry that I didn't update more this week. I had planned to, but I did not realize that Monday was going to take as much out of me as it did. I probably should have known given the circumstances, but yeah, we're going to try to get back on track. I don't have any reason to go in anywhere anytime soon. So hopefully that'll be a little bit nicer. Oh, and before I forget, look what I've got. Brand new, hot off the presses. It does not sound like an 80-year-old smoker who has smoked 6 packs a day for 60 years. It does not shut itself off randomly because it is overheated due to the fact that it is smoked 6 packs a day for 60 years. And I think my favorite part, it's unplugged. And look, it's on. It's a marvelous thing. Like, you can't hear it. It's quiet. It's so light. And like I said, I can unplug it and move it around. Because I have, I'm going to try to show you. So you see, they're right there. These two. This one, you can't unplug. And then this one shuts off randomly and overheats and has a very loud fan. So it has been a marvel having a computer that actually works like it's supposed to. So very excited to have that. And I'm hoping to sprint soon because I miss sprinting and I have my readathon that I'm doing in March, and I would like to host some sprints for that. So we'll see if I can get my head into a headspace where I have some spoons to sprint. So that is my update. I will check back in with you probably Monday to wrap this vlog up because I really just want to focus on reading and maybe doing some editing, which would be nice. So yeah, I will check back in with you and tell you how I did, and we'll see how it goes. Monday, which means it is time to wrap this vlog up. I did not get anywhere near as much reading done this weekend as I had hoped. I had very, very high hopes and felt very confident that I was going to finish everything I was in the midst of, and I just did not. I ended up leaving the house yesterday. I dropped off a bunch of St. Patrick's Day cards, and I had to have a pickup at Walmart, and it was just a very, very long day. I've also switched myself around, so I'm going to bed at like 11, 12 o'clock at night and getting up in the morning. And in the morning, I'm working on puzzles and not realizing that I'm eating into my reading time because most of my reading I was doing between like 12 and 5 when I would go to bed. So because I'm sleeping then, I'm forgetting that I have to read during the day because I didn't read at night. So that has definitely played a factor into things. But I did finish a few books. I finished Don't Disturb, and I ended up giving this 4.25 stars. I actually really enjoyed this one. I was quite invested in the mystery and trying to figure out what was going on. It kept me really, really engaged, and I thought there were also some interesting personal developments between various characters that I quite enjoyed as well. So this was a really, really good addition to the series. And then I finished The Ghosts of Misty Hollow. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. I think this might be my favorite book in this series so far, which is a relief given that the last two weren't necessarily my most favorite reads. And I'm very, very proud of myself for having read 3 ebooks this month so far. This had pretty much everything I would have wanted in a mystery like this. There was a lot of intrigue. There was a lot of ghosts that Emma had to deal with, and it was intriguing to see how they kind of all intertwined because there was a lot going on, like a lot. And it was just really fascinating seeing all of the threads and how they all kind of tied together, because Emma had a lot on her plate in this one, and it was just really neat how the author kind of wove all of that together and made it make a cohesive story. So very invested in this one. I believe this is the last full-length novel. I believe I have 2 novellas left, and one of which I plan to read in April, and the other I don't plan to read till December because that's new. It came out recently, and it's a Christmas one, so I want to save it for December. So I don't think this is going to be a series I don't catch up on in 2024, and that's one of the series I had hoped to catch up on in 2024. So very, very happy with my progress on this, and I mean, I managed to read 3 of them in 1 month, and they're ebooks, and I tend to forget about them. So I'm very, very proud of myself for actually reading the ebooks on my TBR. I have 1 left. No, I have 2 left. And if I can get to those, that would be fantastic. As for the other books I was in the midst of, I haven't picked What the River Knows back up, so I don't have anything to say about this. And then the other 2 I believe I was in the midst of is The Nowhere Boy. I'm now on page 128, so I made a little bit of progress in this, and this has been hard because we're following Ahmed, who is a migrant from Syria, and he is now in Brussels, and he's all alone. His mom died before he left, and he lost his dad in the journey, and he ends up hiding in Max's house, and Max is currently in Brussels. He's American, but his dad got a job here in Brussels, and Max is now aware that Ahmed is hiding in their home, but there was a terrorist attack in Brussels that involved Syrians, so he's really, really concerned for Ahmed's safety. And it's also hard because of some of the language that's used, given everything that's happening in the States right now with people seeking asylum and trying to make their way across the southern border for a better life, and the way people are talking about some of them. So I was tired at times, and while this is a middle grade, the topic of this middle grade is so intense that I wanted to make sure I was able to give it my full concentration. So that's why I haven't gotten through this one, because it's a much heavier topic. But I am enjoying it, and we do have a Cielo. She is here. You're a little late, kid. And then I did make some more progress in Grey Sister. I'm on page 214. So we're getting there. I think I have 2 hours in the audiobook left as she starts knocking books on the floor, because of course she does. I'm very much enjoying this. There's some intriguing things that have recently happened based on where I am, and she is climbing on my desk. Yep, there she is. I apologize for whatever background noise was created by that, but I'm enjoying this. I'm a little frustrated because I requested Holy Sister from my library, and it's active, which means I may or may not get it, but I can't click on the book anymore. And usually you can click on the book and see how many copies are in the library system, and if it's out when it's due, that kind of thing. And it makes me wonder if there was only 1 copy in the library system and something has happened to it. Although usually you can see lost or something, but like I said, I can't even click on it. It doesn't show up when I search for it, so I don't quite know what's going on there. So I may have to see if I can get the ebook of it so that I can at least read along, considering I've managed a couple of ebooks this month, so I could do it again next month, because I really do want to read Holy Sister next month so that I can finish the trilogy while everything is still fresh. So I'm enjoying this one, and hopefully I will finish it next week. So that is my update. Like I said, it was not the best, 2.5 days or whatever I had left when I last checked in with you, but I think I did a little bit, and I think having switched myself around, I just need to get into a new routine, and once I do, I will start smashing out books. And it'll help that next week is the final book support group, so I'm only going to be well, I say I'm only going to be reading sequels, but I do have a lot of that TBR left, so I don't know what I'm going to do there. But I should be reading a lot of books, at least, that are related to series I enjoy. So, yeah, I think that's going to be it for this vlog, though, because I believe I caught you up on everything I've done. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me puzzle piece emojis, considering I keep getting distracted by puzzles. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!